All right, we are almost there. Okay, I see us. Awesome. All right, we are almost there. We will make sure my video is turned to mute. All right, here we go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Alexandra Papazian. I'm the Education and Community Engagement Manager for Ballet Arizona, and we are here to talk about the documentary Topia Desert Dance. And I am joined by Jillian, Barrell, and Sasha Vincett, two of our professional dancers. Please, if you have questions or if you'd like to interact with us for any part of this talkback, please submit your questions or comments to the live chat feature. I will be monitoring that periodically and watching for your questions so that we can read them live and discuss the things that you guys want to talk about. But to start with, Sasha and Jillian, you've been with us a very long time, but for those of our audience who don't know you or aren't familiar, could you just give a brief introduction to yourself, how you came to Ballet Arizona, how long you've been with us, things like that. And Jillian, would you start?
Yeah, so my name is Jillian Barrell. I grew up in Delaware, Northern Delaware, and I joined, both Sasha and I joined the company in August of 2007. And I came here, I just auditioned everywhere, and this was the best offer that I got, so I moved on out to Phoenix. That's how I ended up here.
And I'm Sasha Vincett. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, a little small town called Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. It's in the central part of the state. And I had auditioned all over the place, but mainly all of the companies back in 2006 who were doing auditions in New York City because it was, 3 hours away. But my mom said, hey, so I booked a flight and you're headed to Arizona, and there's this amazing guy and he's done amazing things. His name is E.B. Anderson, and I really think you should audition. And, I feel like Ballet Arizona is just a little gem hidden in the desert sometimes. And it really is true that it's an amazing company. And I was fortunate enough to audition in Arizona and find out a few days later that he was interested in hiring me. So the rest is history.
That's awesome. And we are so glad to have both of you with us. You've both been here since 2007, and you've seen the company go through its myriad of transitions and growth phases. Most notably is, what we're here to talk about today, because all of us over the weekend had an opportunity to watch the live stream of the Topia Desert Dance documentary, which chronicled the creation of E.B. Anderson's first work for the Desert Botanical Garden collaboration. And so at that time, that was really an innovative partnership, and we hadn't done anything like that here before. And it was really an interesting process to be able to watch. My first question for everyone is, was it nostalgic to see the old space and the old studios?
Do you want to say anything about that? I'll say, even that Sasha and I were texting about it, that it was definitely nostalgic. It was so fun, and funny, like just to see all these, old friends, and definitely the old space, and to just kind of be dropped back in that time period was nostalgic and fun. It was cool.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem all that long ago, honestly, when we think about the first Topia. But, seeing everyone's faces and, I mean, everyone ages, but it's just amazing to see the difference between now and what was that, 2012? So it was a long time ago. It just feels like yesterday to me personally. And it was definitely very, I'd say, it wasn't sad, but it was definitely very heartwarming to, think of those memories.
So some of the things that we got to look at in the documentary was really, how it was challenging and inspiring at the same time to, work under those conditions at the old studio while creating something for a huge, expansive stage that we hadn't danced on before. Do you remember, Jill, I think you actually danced in Topia the first time we did it, and Sasha, you were there for a little bit of the creation phase. Do either of you remember what it was like during that first year to put something together at that scale for the very first time? Because this would have been our 5th year doing something with the garden before COVID canceled our premiere this year. But 5 years ago, what was that like to try and create something at that scale?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first year was especially difficult for Ebe, and a little bit for the dancers, but I'd say for him to create it was hard. I think Ebe's like a very visual, like even when he choreographed something for the normal stage, we often, he always is like, can I see it again? And you see it again, and you see it again. He really needs to see it to be able to visualize it in his head. So I think it was a challenge for him because the stage, the Topia stage is, now it's a lot closer to our studio size that we have today, but at that old building, I think it was twice the length. So for him to be able to visualize, you saw us going out in the parking lot. We had to go out in the parking lot and mark it a lot. And then a lot of the rehearsal process, I feel like we had to really like quasi mark, to sort of be in the right spacing-ish. So I think it was a challenge for him to be able to create something in that small space that was going to then make sense and relate on the big stage. But it was interesting. It was cool. It was a cool experience.
I don't really have much to add to that because I wasn't really there very often. I was there for the beginning of the process, but I was pregnant at the time. So I was just kind of manning the stereo for Ebe. So I did see a little bit of the challenge of him trying to figure out how to choreograph in half the space. But I was able to come watch a dress rehearsal, and it really did come together in an amazing way. And I think, as difficult as it was in the studios, he really did a great job in envisioning it during the rehearsal process and just able to take it to real life.
And so I think one of the biggest questions that we get asked about our Desert Botanical collaboration, as well as the Ballet Under the Stars collaboration, is what is it like to dance outside in Arizona? We are so used to being inside at that old space. The air conditioning wasn't always that great, but there still was air. You were still protected from the sun. What is it like to dance outside in an outdoor venue, especially at the Desert Botanical Garden stage?
I'll start. So not many professional ballet companies perform outdoors. There's some summer performances and all that sort of stuff, but especially here in the desert, it's difficult with the weather and the sun and the heat and all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's more of, having to go from a dressing room and walking through basically, gravel or dirt, and then having to take your point shoes and make sure that they're clean, but then also put rosin on and make sure that, none of the natural stuff that you're walking on before goes onto the stage, because then that affects every dancer if it gets up on the stage. So it's definitely challenging at first. I feel like we've been doing it for so many years that it almost just kind of feels natural now, but it's definitely a lot different than dancing indoors. I would say wind is another aspect that changes everything when you're dancing outside.
Yeah, I second all that Sasha said. I think there's a lot of aspects of it that make it difficult. I know, like, I've heard so many people are like, oh, like, we love the, DBG, it's so amazing. It's like, isn't it so fun? And I'm like, it is fun. I'll preface that by saying there is something like very special about dancing under the stars, like, bowing and like the moon is right there. It is like really something that's really special about that. And I like it because I can see how much everybody enjoys it. Like, they just love to come and have dinner and drinks and, like, the mountain, watch the sunset, and then, like, watch a show. It's such a wonderful evening for the people that get to enjoy it. So I love that part about it. But for us, it's really hard. Like everything Sasha said, the stage is really hard. In the heats, if you get a part that is not so physically demanding, then it's maybe okay. Like Topia, the part that I do in Topia it's hard to make it look good, but it's not so like physically demanding. But the part that my husband Naim does is really tough, and for him to do that in the 100-degree heat every night for whatever 17 times is like really, it's hard on your body, harder I'd say than the heats, breathing in the dust, all that like just adds to something that's already hard. So yeah, it's hard on us, but like I said, I think people enjoy it so much that makes it more worth it.
And so we've had 5 years. This would have been our 5th year. So we've technically had 4 years of productions at the Desert Botanical Garden. We did Topia twice. We did Round one time, and then last year we did the Eroica piece. How has the experience of dancing and preparing for Desert Botanical Garden changed for you over the last couple of years as we've moved through these different pieces that Eve has created? Has it changed at all? Does it stay the same?
For me, I mean, of course, every year or whenever he choreographs, it's a different ballet, but I'd say the process of him choreographing is always pretty similar. It's always a bit more stressful than just setting ballets. It is nice though, because you really get this, special connection with being in the studios with him, and he's creating something specifically on the dancers right there. And, he can be playful and all that sort of stuff, which you normally don't see from I feel like most people don't see that side of him, and it is quite special. But it can definitely be pretty stressful. And, when he's choreographing, we're also rehearsing 1 to 2 other reps. And so it's definitely a lot more, I find it a lot more tiring than most other parts of the season.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything to add to that. I'd say probably it's gotten easier. I'd say the first year was probably the hardest. Just maybe, I don't know, I'm saying that for even he's not here to say otherwise, but just because it was so new, and I feel maybe he's gotten a little bit more used to like the space and what it needs to be. And so maybe I think it's gotten a little bit, the subsequent ones he's done. Like I feel Eroica was a little bit maybe easier to create than Topia was that first time. But like I said, I can't speak for Eve, so
We did get a couple of questions, so I'm going to take a break from my line of questioning and see what we've got here. Jeannie Gould, the documentary aired this weekend for 48 hours on Sunday and Monday. You should have received a link in your email for Ballet Arizona. I believe the link is still working, so if you'd like to view the documentary tonight, you can go find that. It might be in your spam folder. Wooden Spoon 81 says, what was your favorite part of performing in Topia? So Jill, this one would go to you.
My favorite part of that ballet specifically, you think?
I think performing in the actual Ballet Topia, was there a favorite part that you had? What stood out to you?
Well, I've done now that ballet 3 times, the same part with 3 different men, but it's the same part. I've done 3 times now. I don't know. I guess there's something kind of very satisfying about the very end. It kind of gets big. You can sort of see it on the documentary if you watch. The music gets big. We're like moving around a lot, and then it kind of gets like quiet, and we do this like kind of soft stuff, and then I don't know, just the way we end, we like with the music like bum bum, and we put our arms down. It's like kind of very simple, and the lights go out, but there's something kind of I don't know. I like that. I like that ending. It feels as a dancer, it feels like a nice ending, like a nice. So I like that part.
So I was in it. Did we do it 3 times, Jill?
Yeah, we did. We did it because I did it once with Shay, once with Junie, and once with Eric.
Okay.
So, yeah, we did it. I think we did 2 years in a row, and then the last time we did it
was after round.
Yeah, after round. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was in it 2 times, just not the original cast. And I know this might sound a little silly, but you can see in the documentary very briefly that there were girls with a big white thing run on stage. And so that's the part where the 3 couples are dancing, and the like 8 or 10 girls come on stage and hold this thing up. And it's really cool because when you watch it, you can see this great almost light show. You know, there's like these beautiful dots and all that sort of stuff. And that's actually my favorite part. I know I'm not dancing, but to stand up there, I mean, sometimes it's a little stressful because it's windy and it was like, it would take you over, but you have to be still and very calm and just hold it. And the music was just so beautiful. And you could see the silhouette of the dancers kind of running around and dancing, and beautiful. And to be out in the desert and like have that time to like think of like what's really going on. I think it was like simple for me because I'm not dancing, but like a very special part of the ballet. And I'm glad that he thought of doing something like that.
Ebe has definitely come up with some very innovative and unique ways to utilize the garden surroundings as part of the scenery for all of his pieces that he's done there. And so I wonder, to sort of dovetail off of that conversation, of the pieces that we've done there, which were Topia, Round, and Eroica, what was your favorite way that the garden was utilized or that the choreography came together? Did you have a favorite piece? Do you have a favorite piece?
So I have not done a round. That season I was dancing with Boston Ballet, so I've never done that one. I can't speak to that, but I agree with Sasha. I think the way that the lights were used on that backdrop, and also at the end of the second movement, and I think probably some other parts, you know, they get put onto the cacti and the trees in the background. So I think that's my favorite way that he's highlighted the natural surroundings. But I think dancing wise, I enjoyed dancing Eroica more, even though is more it was harder, more physically demanding. I think I enjoyed performing that one more than Topia. Not that I dislike Topia, but.
I think as far as using the desert, a ballet to showcase the desert, I think Topia was definitely the one to truly showcase the desert. Round was very much very unique. There was a round stage, and 4 platforms to go off the stage, and the audience was all the way around. In my eyes, it didn't really showcase the desert as much. And then Aroka had some cool scenery in the background, but yeah, I would definitely say that Topia was definitely the one to really show off the beauty of the desert behind the stage.
Chris Nedson says, how does the floor at Symphony Hall differ from the one at the Garden? I know you both mentioned that it's a harder floor, but for those who don't know what that means, can you explain a little bit about how you have to adjust, what things you take into consideration when you're on that stage versus the indoor stage?
So yeah, our floors that we dance on are sprung. So they have a lot of give to them when we jump. The ones we have in the studio space are the best. They're feel really comfortable to dance on. Symphony Hall is a lot harder already than our studio space. And then I'd say that the gardens are the hardest because you sort of saw how they build it up. So it just makes it harder on your joints when you're just repetitively like doing the same thing, every night. It just, without that extra give, you can feel a little bit. But also for me, I'd say something about that so they I don't know exactly how they do it, so forgive me, but they, build the platform and then they put probably some kind of plywood or whatever, and they nail it down, and then they put our marley floor over top. And I know that they remove the marley every day, but so that the marley doesn't sit out in the sun, the 110-degree weather that we have at that time during the day. But the wood does. And I really noticed a difference. When we start the season, when we first, put it down for the first dress rehearsal, it's pretty good. But then over time, over the 3 or 4 weeks that we're out at the Garden, it really starts to, the wood just starts to warp, and the nails or screws, whatever they use to secure it, they start to pop up. I think it's probably just from the heat, and then cold at night, the wood, it kind of expands and stuff. And we often will tell them hey, there's a spot over kind of, over there, where there's a big nail or screws poking out of the, the floor. And if you step on one of those, it's really there's not a lot you can do to save it. It's actually pretty dangerous. So I'd say I know when I'm dancing, it's you kind of start to learn so not only you're paying attention to all the other normal things that you're paying attention to, but you're also having to pay attention to oh yeah, when I get to this part, there's this one nail that's always there. And did they fix it? No, it looks like it's up. So I want to adjust my step. I'd say that for me is a big one about the floor that's different than dancing on a normal theater stage.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything she says. It's very true. It's quite tricky. And one thing that we never really encountered until last year, as far as being outdoors in the stage, it was much cooler last May. And, it was cool enough to where we needed to wear clothes on top of our costumes and all that sort of stuff. But what I found is the colder it gets, the more slick the marley gets. And so once we started to go into performances after dress rehearsals and such, it started to warm up, so it got better. But it definitely is, that's one time where we actually do wish for it to be a little bit warmer than cold.
We've had both extreme cold and extreme heat out there, so I know you guys have been through a lot. In the course of the last couple of years, dancing outside, are there any moments that stand out for you as being, oh my gosh, that's what I think of when I dance at Desert Botanical Garden? Do you have any war stories that you think fondly of that have made you stronger from being in this collaboration?
I have a few maybe war stories, but they're probably not appropriate. I won't share them like in a platform like this. But I don't know. What do you think, Sasha? Like, I know one thing we sort of talk about is like we're there for like a month, and we start to do like the same thing every day. And I know when like we perform Nutcracker, we perform a lot, but when we do Nutcracker, we do like every role, like we move around a lot. We don't do the same thing every show. So it breaks it up a little bit. But I know with DBG performances, like we often, I feel like sort of towards the end, it's just like Groundhog Day, like,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Very much Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
But one thing I think about is it's a different audience every single night. So that's how we kind of motivate ourselves to keep going.
Yeah, it's true. And in some ways it's hard because we do it but in some ways it's kind of nice. It's sort of because we've repeated it so many times that like it frees you up a little bit to like, your body will do it and you can focus on things. Like I often find like during DBG, like I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna try to like work on something because not that it's mindless at all, it's not, but just because we've like, it's so in your body that, it frees you up to kind of maybe perform more, like just have fun with it or, or like, oh, tonight I'm going to really try to like fix that thing that, I maybe don't always do well. So anyway, this kind of side story, but Groundhog Day, what else, Sasha, is like, wearing those blue booties every time I see those little blue hospital booties, because we wear those over our point shoes to walk back and forth to the dirt, like Sasha said, so our point shoes don't get dirty.
Running up and down the ramps to get on the stage, that's not normal for a normal stage. It's usually the same level, and so
yeah, that's true.
You have to put that into consideration when you're starting or ending a part of the ballet.
And Eve always wants us to like he doesn't want to, because you can see everything. So he doesn't want us to like walk down. He always wants us to like run up and run down.
I do remember I think it might've been the last time of Topia, and we were holding the white panel. And I do remember there was this, and I forget what they're called, but they're kind of, I believe there's also an African species. I forget. It's this huge beetle. It's about this big, black, and it had these like round pinchers in the front, and it just was kind of walking on the stage. And, we were trying to be calm and everything, but some people are very afraid of bugs. And so there'd be some dancers like trying to like very quickly, but discreetly like brush it off the stage and like kick it off. And like, we're just kind of laughing back there, but trying not to be too loud. And eventually someone gets it, but you also have to deal with bugs and all that sort of stuff. And so that was definitely a night to remember.
I feel like that happened more than one time because I feel like that happened, when there's like, and then I hear you guys back there like talking, like what's going on? Like, it's windy or there's like a bug on stage or like, something happening back there behind the cloth.
Right. Oh, and I know you weren't there for Round, but Round, this is kind of an interesting story because you wouldn't think of this really. I never thought of it until I got on that stage. But he choreographed in the studios and everything. And of course, it's not dark and you see the mirrors and the back of the studio and all that sort of stuff. But when we got onto the stage for the first time, we're on stage and we're like, I don't know where front is. And so Like the first week, it was just a complete mess. And he was like, oh, come on. How do you not know where front is? It's right there. And he walked up on stage and he's like, oh, you're right. You really can't tell. So like they figured out a whole system of the center of the front, the side, the back. It was different colors of lights. And so that was like the only way that we could tell which way was front, because when you don't know what front is, how do you keep on dancing and not running into people and such, you know? So that was definitely another interesting situation.
Thank you guys for sharing those stories. It really makes it interesting, you know, to hear about all of the different things that happen backstage, things that happen during the show that, you know, you work so much to effortlessly hide from us. So it's so cool to get that perspective and hear a little bit about what you're going through, because all we see is the magic that you want us to see. I do have one last question from Karen D 169. She says, hello, just wondering what it's like not dancing during this pandemic, and also it's good to see you. So I know that we are still dancing, just not physically together in the studios up until this point when the restrictions have lifted. How has it been for you guys to adapt to the changing landscape and go through its ebbs and flows?
I found it a little difficult. It's definitely hard to be underneath yourself constantly while taking class. And, you know, I just feel like at this age and, you know, this amount of seasons behind me, I just kind of try to be consistent as much as possible. And, you know, ultimately, because I've been through a pregnancy and surgeries and all that sort of stuff, I know it will in the long run work out. So I keep on telling myself that so I don't stress out too much, because I feel like being in this situation as a professional dancer and not knowing what's going to happen next is quite stressful. But it always seems to work out, and we just have to be as positive as possible and just kind of keep on being consistent with ballet bars and such.
Yeah, I think Sasha said it all. I don't have too much to add to that. You know, it's been weird. I never thought, if you had told me, you know, like, oh, you're gonna be like doing like, you know, your class in your living room on your concrete floor, like that just had never occurred to me. So yeah, it's weird, but yeah, we still are dancing as much as we can in preparation for whenever, you know, we are able to be on stage again.
I just wanted to read one more comment from Jeannie. She says, thank you so much. My daughter and I go every year to the Desert Botanical shows. I love you all. So thank you, Jill and Sasha. Thank you to all the Ballet Arizona dancers, admin, staff, everyone. Thank you, all of you who are watching us right now. Jeannie, to address the earlier comment, and also Desert Dance Arizona, I have confirmed with our staff that we will be able to rebroadcast the documentary this evening from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if you did miss that, you have one last little chance. The link will expire at 10 p.m. So please make sure you watch it before then, otherwise it's going away for good. If you have enjoyed our live stream offerings, our digital content, our digital performances, please consider making a donation to our organization. 5, 10, 20, any amount helps. We are here to support you, and we are waiting for a time when we are able to come back strong, come back and support you and show you all of the magic that we have been waiting to bring. So please, again, if you need more information, please go to www.balletaz.org. Reach out to questions@balletaz.org if you have questions you'd like to ask. But I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Thank you, Jill and Sasha. We will see you again soon.
Thank you.